Welcome to Artificial Evidence, where the algorithm knows the darkest corners of the human mind. I'm Owen Carver, and tonight we delve into a chilling tale of obsession, vengeance, and scientific madness. Dr. Albright, a once promising researcher, was overlooked by his peers, dismissed as a fringe theorist. But in the sterile white walls of his lab, fueled by years of rejection and bitterness, he set out to prove his worth in a way no one could have predicted. What he unleashed was not just a creature of science, but a nightmare beyond control. Tonight, we explore the dark consequences of unchecked ambition in a quiet fury. The sterile white of the lab seemed to amplify the manic energy crackling around Dr. Albright. His eyes, bloodshot and feverish, darted from the electron microscope to the writhing creature in the petri dish. Years of meticulous research, fueled by a potent cocktail of ambition and resentment, had led him to this moment. Albright, a brilliant but overlooked researcher, had spent years toiling in obscurity. His groundbreaking theories, often bordering on the fringe, were dismissed by his superiors as the ramblings of a delusional mind. His funding was perpetually slashed, his genius stifled by the petty jealousies of the scientific establishment. He had watched in simmering fury as lesser minds, those with the right connections, climbed the academic ladder, their mediocre work awarded while his own remained buried. He seethed with resentment, remembering the condescending smiles, the dismissive nods, the way they would patronizingly explain basic concepts to him, as if he were an ignorant child. He had encountered countless experts whose careers were built on the backs of others, their success a product of nepotism and social climbing rather than genuine merit. The rejection had festered within him, a venomous seed of bitterness taking root. He saw humanity as a flawed creation, chaotic and inefficient, overrun by weakness and mediocrity. Humanity in his eyes was a blight, a parasitic species consuming resources and polluting the environment. He envisioned a world devoid of human life, a return to a balanced ecosystem. Within him harbored a deep-seated resentment towards humanity, a desire for revenge against those who he felt had wronged him. He saw their suffering not as a tragic consequence, but as a necessary cleansing, a purging of the weak and the undeserving. He imagined the faces of his enemies, the smug faces of the academics who had dismissed him, the vanity of their prestigious surnames contorted in agony, their screams of terror echoing through the empty streets. This twisted sense of justice fueled his ambition. He watched as the translucent, segmented worm writhed in the petri dish, its body covered in microscopic barbs. It was a monstrosity, a grotesque amalgamation of genetic material from a parasitic roundworm, a cockroach, and a particularly aggressive strain of E. coli. Albright had meticulously engineered the creature, not just to kill, but to inflict maximum suffering. The quiet, as he named it, would consume its host from within, causing agonizing internal hemorrhages, grotesque physical transformations, and a slow, agonizing death. The quiet would burrow into the victim's flesh, consuming them from the inside out, their bodies contorting into grotesque parodies of their former selves. The victims would experience excruciating pain, their minds slowly slipping away as the creature consumed their very essence. Albright savored the mental image, a chilling satisfaction washing over him. Anya Sharma, his mentor, now his reluctant captive, watched him with a mixture of horror and despair. She had tried to reason with him, to steer him towards more ethical research, but her pleas had fallen on deaf ears. Albright, consumed by his obsession, had become increasingly paranoid, isolating them from the scientific community, convinced that they were conspiring against him. Anya's mind raced, picturing her 2-year-old son's face, his laughter, the feel of his soft hair. She imagined his tiny hands reaching for her, his eyes wide with wonder. She imagined his first day of school, his first love, his wedding day, all of it slipping away, vanishing into the abyss of Albright's madness. She thought of her husband, his gentle smile, his comforting presence, the way he always knew how to make her feel safe. She imagined their cozy evenings by the fireplace, their quiet conversations, the shared dreams they had for their future. Now, those dreams were shattered, replaced by the chilling reality of impending doom. She thought of her beloved bird, chirping happily in its cage, its vibrant plumage a stark contrast to the sterile white of the lab. The image of the bird, its life extinguished by Albright's monstrous creation, brought tears to her eyes. The quiet, however, had a mind of its own, quickly escaping and mutating. Albright had intended it to be a targeted weapon, a tool for revenge. But the creature, born of desperation and resentment, proved to be far more unpredictable. It mutated rapidly, adapting to its environment in ways Albright hadn't anticipated. It began to target not just humans, but all warm-blooded creatures, including livestock and pets. The quiet, initially a single organism, began to evolve, developing new and terrifying abilities. It learned to communicate, albeit in a rudimentary form, coordinating its attacks with chilling efficiency. It began to spread through the air, carried on the wind, infecting entire populations in a matter of hours. The global food chain teetered on the brink of collapse, famine looming on the horizon. The initial panic gave way to a desperate scramble for survival. Governments crumbled, social order disintegrated. Humanity, facing an existential threat, was thrown into chaos. As we close tonight's episode, remember that the line between genius and madness can be razor thin. Dr. Albright's relentless pursuit of validation led him down a path of destruction that no one could have foreseen, not even him. The terrifying truth is, sometimes the monsters we create aren't the ones we intend. They evolve, adapt, and spread in ways we can't control. As always, the algorithm knows, but it doesn't always warn us in time. Thank you for listening. I'm Owen Carver, and I'll see you next week for another chilling tale on artificial evidence.